The frame opens in stillness, the kind of silence that fills a meadow at the edge of late summer. Only the dry shuffle of grass blades carries through the air. Then, in a burst so quick the eye almost misses it, a pair of serrated forelegs snap closed. The sequence, replayed in extreme slow motion, stretches a blink of time into a drawn-out ballet of violence. In the space of less than 1/10 of a second, the forearms of a praying mantis scissor together, their spines interlocking like teeth of a trap, and a hapless fly is no more than a shuddering prisoner. The kill is over before most insects could register the danger. To understand how such precision is possible, one must first look into the mantis' eyes. Unlike the vast compound mosaics of many insects, which gather diffuse information from all directions, the mantis' eyes face forward. Each globe holds thousands of ommatidia, and in the overlapping zone of their visual fields lies a crude form of stereoscopic depth perception. This is a rarity among invertebrates. It grants the mantis not only the ability to detect motion, but also to judge how far away the motion lies. In effect, it sees in 3 dimensions, allowing calculations of striking distance with uncanny accuracy. The head that houses those eyes is triangular and mounted on a remarkably flexible neck joint. While most insects must turn their entire body to redirect their vision, the mantis swivels its head in smooth arcs, scanning a full field without betraying the stillness of its stance. This stillness is an illusion carefully maintained. The body, colored in shades that mimic surrounding vegetation, is not fixed like a rigid spear, but sways almost imperceptibly. To the human observer, it resembles a gentle rocking, yet in the context of a breeze bending grass stalks, it is camouflage in motion. The swaying disguises the subtle adjustments of balance that prepare the mantis for its strike. Every tendon and flexor muscle of the forelegs is held taut, compressing energy into the hardened cuticle of the limb. These arms are spring-loaded devices where elastic energy accumulates until a trigger releases it in a single explosive snap. When the strike comes, it is not simply a closing of arms. Each raptorial foreleg unfolds with a hook at its tip, while the tibia swings against the femur like the blade of a folding knife. Rows of sharp spines line the inner surfaces, creating a living cage of thorns. Once prey is trapped inside, escape is almost impossible. The tibial claw clicks against the femur in a locking motion, a biological ratchet that secures the victim while the mantis delivers its precise, consuming bites. After feeding, the insect performs a ritual of cleanliness. It drags each arm carefully across its mouthparts, scraping away residue as if sterilizing surgical instruments for the next dissection. The hunting strategy of a mantis is not limited to insects the size of flies. Crickets, grasshoppers, and even beetles fall victim to this guillotine. In certain habitats, larger mantids will extend their menu to include small vertebrates, lizards, nestling birds, and occasionally rodents. Such kills demonstrate the raw power stored within those arms. Yet the mantis is not invincible, and its methods are constantly tested against prey with strategies of their own. Consider the micro-duel with a jumping spider. The spider, though smaller, carries unmatched agility and a leap powered by hydraulic pressure in its limbs. Its 8 eyes provide a wide and acute field of vision. The mantis, for all its reach, relies on predicting the spider's trajectory and intercepting it in mid-movement. In this contest of reflexes, a fraction of a second decides whether the guillotine closes on its quarry or snaps through empty air. Ambush remains the preferred tactic. The mantis positions itself along stems or leaves where insects are likely to pass, sometimes waiting hours without a twitch. Energy conservation is as crucial as the final strike. When prey wanders close, the mantis does not lunge immediately. It edges forward in increments so small they seem geological in pace. Each step is timed with environmental cues, the rustle of a breeze, the sway of a shadow, anything that hides motion from the compound eyes of potential victims. When within range, the strike becomes inevitable. The speed is so great that even high frame rate cameras strain to resolve the sequence. What begins as patient stillness concludes with sudden violence, a study in contrasts that has fascinated naturalists for centuries. The evolutionary pressures that shaped this design are written into every part of the anatomy. The enlarged forelegs come at the expense of rapid locomotion. Mantises are not sprinters across open ground. Instead, their survival depends on blending into vegetative structures. Some species resemble twigs so convincingly that even experienced observers struggle to separate insect from branch. Others wear the costume of leaves, complete with veins and ragged edges, deceiving predators and prey alike. The rocking motion that mimics the wind is not an accident of posture, but a refined adaptation honed through countless generations of trial. Those mantises that swayed survived to pass on their genes. Those that stood rigid were seen and removed. One of the more remarkable aspects of mantis hunting lies not only in its mechanics, but also in its selectivity. Experiments have shown that mantises prefer prey within certain size ranges relative to their own body. Too small, and the effort of capture outweighs the gain. Too large, and the risk of injury escalates. This balance reflects a sophisticated decision-making process mediated by sensory input and instinctive thresholds. It is not thought in the human sense, but an evolved calculus embedded in neural circuits. The arms themselves tell a further story. Each spine, though formidable, wears down with repeated use. Mantises compensate by carefully grooming and aligning these weapons after meals. The ritualized cleaning is more than hygiene. It is maintenance of a delicate machine whose efficiency must be preserved. Observers often compare this to a craftsman caring for tools, a metaphor that holds weight when one realizes the insect's survival depends entirely on the readiness of those arms. Predation places the mantis within the broader ecosystem as both regulator and prey. Birds, bats, and larger insects hunt them in turn, creating a cycle where stealth is protection as much as weapon. Their role as top insect predators influences populations of grasshoppers and flies, shaping the balance of small animal communities. A meadow without mantises would tilt differently, its dynamics altered by unchecked numbers of plant-eating insects. Thus, the raptorial guillotine is not only a personal survival strategy, but a sculpting force within the ecological web. In closing, the mantis represents a paradox. A creature defined by patience and stillness, yet capable of movements so rapid they eclipse perception. Its forelegs are both shield and sword, precision instruments of capture that operate on principles of spring mechanics recognizable to engineers. To watch a mantis in the wild is to witness evolution condensed into a gesture, the moment when stored energy becomes fate and survival is measured in the width of a heartbeat. The camera settles on the edge of a sunlit leaf where the world seems calm in miniature. Dew still clings to the veins of the greenery, refracting morning light into small, scattered jewels. Yet in this quiet stage, a hunter waits. Barely the size of a fingernail, the jumping spider surveys its realm with movements that seem almost mechanical in precision. A sidestep here, a pause there, then without warning it catapults into the air. No web supports this leap. Instead, the power comes from within, from a hydraulic system coursing through its body. In that instant, internal pressure transforms into lift, and a predator sails across the gap like a tiny acrobat of astonishing grace. Unlike insects that rely on rigid musculature alone, jumping spiders have evolved to weaponize the flow of hemolymph, the pressurized body fluid that fills their internal cavity. By abruptly increasing pressure in the cephalothorax, they extend their legs with a burst of force beyond what muscles alone could generate. The action is not unlike a hydraulic piston firing in a machine, except here it is alive, honed through millions of years of refinement. Each jump is measured, directed, and recalculated on the fly, allowing the spider to land precisely on a moving target, even when wind shifts leaves beneath its feet. Central to this aerial mastery is vision. While most spiders live in a blurred haze of motion detected through vibration and touch, jumping spiders possess an eye system so advanced it challenges assumptions about what tiny brains can process. Their heads carry a total of 8 eyes, yet they are not all equal in function. Dominating the face are 2 enormous principal eyes, front and center, each like a pair of gleaming binocular lenses. These eyes deliver high-resolution imagery and even sensitivity to colors far into the green and ultraviolet spectrum. Around them, smaller secondary eyes form a panoramic perimeter, detecting motion across a wide field. The combination grants both the clarity of focused detail and the vigilance of a nearly complete surround view. Depth perception is not achieved in the way human eyes triangulate space, but through an elegant trick of scanning. Inside each principal eye, the retina is narrow, so the spider shifts it slightly back and forth, sampling how images blur or sharpen with minuscule changes in angle. From these variations, the spider computes distance, as though running constant trigonometric calculations in real time. This is how a creature with a brain smaller than a poppy seed can gauge the range to a fly with an accuracy rivaling human binocular vision. Before any leap, the spider performs a ritual of safety. A silk thread is attached to the takeoff point, trailing behind it as it arcs through the air. This lifeline is no passive dragline, it is a calculated insurance policy. Should the trajectory fail or the landing slip, the spider can climb back along its silk anchor, rewinding the attempt without consequence. To the camera, it looks like a gymnast tethered by an invisible rope, confident enough to attempt feats that would otherwise be fatal. Yet the hydraulic acrobat is not all predator. At times, the leaf stage transforms into a dance floor, where courtship rituals unfold in an explosion of color and rhythm. Males of many species possess iridescent scales that shimmer under sunlight, displaying flashes of emerald, crimson, or electric blue. These patches are not merely for decoration, but for communication, a visual signal as complex as a flag waved in coded sequence. Alongside this display, males drum upon the leaf surface, transmitting vibrations through the plant fibers. Females interpret these dual messages, sight and vibration combined, as both proof of identity and quality. A hesitant or poorly timed display may result not in mating, but in the female lunging forward to consume the suitor. The stakes of performance are survival itself. When the focus shifts back to the hunt, the true genius of the spider's acrobatics is revealed. A jumping spider rarely aims for where its prey is in the moment of takeoff. Instead, it predicts where the prey will be a fraction of a second later, adjusting its angle to intercept a moving target. This predictive capacity is a form of real-time trajectory planning, something that in machines requires processors and algorithms. In the spider, it occurs in milliseconds within a brain scarcely larger than a grain of sand. Researchers have demonstrated that these spiders can even learn to adjust their paths, rerouting across unfamiliar terrain to reach prey from a better angle. Such behavior suggests a form of problem-solving that pushes the boundary of what we expect from arthropods. The agility of the acrobat is tested not only in pursuit, but also in evasion. In habitats shared with larger ambush predators, such as mantises, a jumping spider's survival may depend on pivoting at the exact instant an attack begins. Here, the wide field of the secondary eyes proves decisive, catching subtle shifts of movement behind or to the side. A mantis may strike with its spined arms in the blink of an eye, but the spider's compact body can twist mid-air, redirecting itself away from the arc of the guillotine. It is a battle of reach versus reflex, and often the smaller acrobat survives through sheer unpredictability. This reliance on vision shapes nearly every aspect of their lives. Whereas many spiders spin webs and wait passively, jumping spiders are explorers. They patrol surfaces, peer over edges, and investigate with curiosity reminiscent of vertebrates. Their gaze is not static. The principal eyes swivel independently within their sockets, tracking points of interest with precision. Observers often remark that these spiders seem to look back, creating a strange sense of being noticed by an animal so small. In reality, it is their acute vision responding to movement, a constant vigilance that fuels their ability to hunt in broad daylight rather than the cover of night. The ecosystem role of the jumping spider is subtle yet significant. By preying on flies, mosquitoes, and other small insects, they regulate populations that might otherwise swell unchecked. Their presence in gardens and forests is a form of biological pest control, one that operates without cost or chemical intervention. At the same time, they themselves serve as food for birds, lizards, and wasps, weaving them firmly into the fabric of predation and survival. Each leap, each successful capture, represents not just individual sustenance, but a thread in the larger web of ecological balance. What astonishes scientists is the neurological economy of these creatures. With neural circuitry limited by size, they nevertheless achieve feats of planning and coordination that rival animals with brains thousands of times larger. The efficiency of their computation, how much they accomplish with so little tissue, offers insights into biological design that engineers and roboticists study closely. If a spider can process three-dimensional space, calculate trajectories, and execute acrobatic maneuvers with such minimal architecture, then perhaps intelligence and precision do not scale simply with brain mass. Instead, they emerge from specialized adaptations fine-tuned to survival needs. In the closing image, the camera lingers on the spider perched once again at the edge of a leaf, its body angled, its eyes glinting like polished glass. The wind shifts and the leaf trembles, yet the spider holds steady, poised for another launch. It is both predator and performer, a miniature gymnast suspended between calculation and instinct. With every leap, it demonstrates that even the smallest creatures can master the most complex physics, embodying the paradox of nature's design, that vast mathematical problems can be solved within the confines of a body smaller than a fingernail. The forest at night hums with a different kind of life. Crickets pulse their stridulations, moths brush softly against bark, and beneath the heavy stillness of summer heat, a thick scent of oak sap hangs in the air. Drawn to this sugary resource, armored giants climb the trunks, their glossy bodies catching moonlight like polished obsidian. Among them, males of the rhinoceros beetle gather, not only to drink but to contest. For here, the sap bar is not a place of peace. It is an arena where strength and patience decide who will feed and who will fall. Two males meet on the bleeding wound of an oak, where sap drips in viscous threads. They clash almost without hesitation, horns rising and scraping, each beetle pushing with relentless force. One slips his horn beneath the thorax of the other, leveraging his low-slung frame with a sudden upward heave. The rival lifts, legs scrabbling for purchase, before being toppled backward in slow, theatrical arcs. He tumbles down the bark, the sound of his wing cases clattering against the trunk echoing like distant percussion. The victor remains clamped tightly to the sap flow, triumphant for the moment in this nocturnal sumo bout. The mechanics of this throw lie in physics as much as raw power. Rhinoceros beetles are not tall, upright creatures. Their bodies hug the bark, keeping their centers of gravity close to the surface. The horns that project from their heads or thoraxes act as levers, amplifying small muscular efforts into enormous lifting force. A beetle that can wedge its horn under another and push upward gains a torque advantage, converting short muscular contractions into a flip that no rival can resist. It is not just brute strength, it is an application of leverage evolved into instinctive combat technique. Leg adhesion adds another dimension to this contest. The feet of rhinoceros beetles are lined with adhesive pads capable of clinging to rough bark with remarkable tenacity. Each pad secretes a thin film of fluid, enhancing grip through capillary forces. This adhesion allows the beetle to resist the torque that might otherwise throw it off balance during combat. Rivals can be pried loose, not because the victor simply pushes harder, but because his grip outlasts his opponent's, turning every joust into a struggle of both muscles and microscopic traction. It is tempting to call the rhinoceros beetle the strongest animal on Earth, a title often repeated in popular accounts. Certainly, relative to body weight, they can lift many times their mass, sometimes as much as 100-fold under laboratory conditions. But strength is not their only claim to fame. The horn is not a single universal shape, but a canvas of evolutionary variation. In some species it curves gracefully like a scimitar, in others it rises straight and forked like the antlers of a deer. Even within a species, nutrition during larval development can dictate the size and symmetry of horns. Well-fed larvae that find rich decaying wood may pupate into adults with massive armaments, while undernourished individuals grow smaller, less adorned versions. Thus, every combat on the sap bar carries not just the weight of immediate rivalry, but the echoes of childhood fortune in hidden chambers of rotting wood. That hidden larval life is as important to the forest as the nightly spectacles of combat. Rhinoceros beetle larvae spend years buried in decomposing logs, chewing through cellulose and lignin, breaking down wood into soil. Their mandibles grind the fibers into smaller fragments, feeding not only themselves but the ecosystem, enriching the ground for fungi, plants, and the next generation of trees. They are recyclers in the truest sense, agents of nutrient turnover without which forests would choke on their own debris. The adult beetle's battles, dramatic though they are, last only a season. The larva's patient labor sustains the cycle of forest renewal. When adulthood finally arrives, the beetle undergoes a metamorphosis that reveals another side of its nature: flight. For all their bulk, rhinoceros beetles are capable flyers, though the effort is unmistakable. When they lift their elytra to expose membranous wings, the takeoff is accompanied by a buzzing roar that vibrates through the night air. It is a sound closer to a miniature helicopter than a delicate insect, startling to anyone nearby. Their flights are not long, efficient glides but heavy, determined journeys, usually from one feeding tree to another. For the observer, seeing such an armored insect in the air, humming with brute energy, feels like witnessing an improbable machine in motion. Back on the oak trunk, contests continue. Males take turns challenging, dislodging, and reclaiming the sap wounds, while females slip in quietly to feed when they can. For females, the sugary sap is critical fuel for egg production, while for males, victory ensures access to both food and potential mates drawn to the site. Thus, the jousts are not only about nourishment, but about genetic legacy. Every shove and flip writes the next chapter of the species' lineage. The diversity of horn shapes across the rhinoceros beetle family tells stories of ecological pressures unique to each region. In dense forests where males crowd on limited feeding sites, longer, more elaborate horns give an edge in contests. In more open habitats, smaller horns may suffice, conserving energy for flight. Horns are not mere ornaments, but tools shaped by the balance of competition, predation, and resource availability. And yet, in all their forms, they demonstrate the principle of evolutionary trade-offs. Larger horns confer advantage in combat, but require energy to grow and maintain. Males that survive to adulthood with extravagant horns are thus signals of larval success and resilience, their bodies testaments to the environments that nurtured them. As the night deepens, the oak sap continues to draw competitors. One male, broad and dark with a sweeping horn, holds his ground against repeated challengers. Each assault follows the same rhythm: probing contact, sudden leverage, and a flip. The physics remain constant, yet the drama never lessens. For the fallen, recovery is quick. They climb again, perhaps to contest another rival or wait for the victor to tire. The trunk becomes a vertical arena, where persistence can rival brute strength, and where the smallest shift of balance decides fates. The final sequence lingers on a decisive moment. The camera closes in on a male wedging his horn beneath a rival's thorax. Muscles strain, pads grip, and with one last surge, the rival is lifted clean from the bark. His legs claw the air in futility before gravity claims him. He plummets, wings half spreading in panic, until he crashes onto the leaf litter below. Above, the victor returns to the sap wound, his horn glistening under moonlight. It is the purest distillation of macro-drama, sumo wrestling played out in miniature, yet carrying the same themes of power, endurance, and triumph found in arenas across the natural world. For all its spectacle, the rhinoceros beetle is more than a gladiator. It is recycler, aviator, engineer of soil, and architect of its own evolutionary legacy. The sap bar battles are only the visible tip of a life shaped by hidden years in rotting wood, by the physics of leverage written into its frame, and by the relentless forces of competition that sculpt horn and muscle alike. To witness a rhinoceros beetle at the oak trunk is to glimpse not just a fight, but the convergence of physics, ecology, and evolution in the armor of one remarkable insect. The forest floor is alive with movement, though at first glance it seems like the undergrowth itself is walking. Bright shards of green sway above the soil, carried aloft by an endless file of ants. Each fragment of leaf trembles as its bearer navigates the crowded highway, one among millions, in a colony that can rival a small city in scale. Sunlight filters through the canopy, catching the leaf triangles like sails at sea, an armada bound not for eating but for farming. To follow these workers is to step into one of the most complex systems of logistics and agriculture anywhere in the natural world. The journey begins at the cut site. Workers ascend stems and branches, their mandibles sharpened like scissor blades through constant wear. With astonishing efficiency, they slice semicircular arcs from living leaves, the cuts falling with soft snaps that echo faintly in the still air. Each ant grips its prize, pivots, and descends. The leaves are not food in themselves. Ants lack the enzymes to digest such fibrous material. Instead, these fragments serve as the foundation of something far more extraordinary, a subterranean fungus farm that feeds the colony. The ants are not mere foragers. They are agriculturalists, cultivating a partner organism in a symbiotic relationship that has persisted for millions of years. Follow the trail underground and the forest transforms into an intricate labyrinth. Chambers branch into chambers, each serving a role in the greater enterprise. Here, the cut leaves are chewed into mulch and carefully inoculated with fungal filaments. Within days, the surface erupts in a white bloom of fungal growth, forming sponge-like gardens, tended with the care of master horticulturalists. These gardens are the true source of nutrition. The fungus converts otherwise indigestible plant matter into swollen, nutrient-rich structures called gongolidia, which ants harvest and feed to the entire colony. In return, the fungus receives protection and a constant supply of fresh substrate. Together, ant and fungus form a partnership so intimate that neither can survive without the other. But such agriculture is fraught with danger. Underground, competing fungi and parasitic molds lie in wait, ready to overwhelm the carefully cultivated crop. To counter this, nurse ants patrol the gardens like vigilant gardeners, pruning diseased patches and removing foreign spores. Their bodies carry a secret weapon, patches of white chalky growth on their shoulders and legs. These are not ornamental markings, but living symbiotic bacteria. The bacteria secrete potent antibiotics, which the ants apply to infected garden sites to halt invading pathogens. This alliance is a living pharmacy, a co-evolved defense system refined through evolutionary arms races. Long before humans discovered antibiotics in soil microbes, ants had enlisted bacteria to safeguard their farms. Above ground, the supply chain continues with the discipline of a highway system. Foraging trails extend from nest entrances like veins, branching and rebranching toward feeding sites. Pheromones laid down by scout ants direct traffic, forming optimized paths that adjust dynamically as obstacles appear. Workers returning with leaves hug one side of the trail, while outbound ants march on the other, minimizing collisions. This choreography emerges not from central command, but from simple rules followed by each individual. Yet the collective result is a system of efficiency that rivals human logistics networks. The organization of the colony depends on castes, each specialized in form and duty. Massive soldiers patrol the trail edges, their heads broad and mandibles sharp enough to deter predators. Medium workers form the backbone of leaf cutting and transport. Smaller workers tend gardens and care for larvae. The tiniest, called minims, ride atop leaf fragments like guardians on ships, scanning for parasitic flies that attempt to lay eggs on the carriers. At the first sign of attack, these minims lunge, batting away the flies with surprising ferocity. Their role is crucial, for a single parasitic maggot can consume the muscle tissue of its host, crippling the workforce. Inside the nest, brood chambers host eggs, larvae, and pupae, all dependent on the constant influx of fungal food. Nurse ants feed the developing young, transferring pre-digested fungus from their mouths. Every stage of growth is synchronized with the needs of the colony, which itself behaves like a single superorganism. No individual ant comprehends the scale of the operation, yet together they embody a collective intelligence where roles shift seamlessly and resources are allocated with precision. To an outside observer, it is tempting to anthropomorphize such systems. The highways resemble human supply chains, the gardens resemble farms, and the defense mechanisms recall chemical warfare. Yet these parallels reveal something deeper. that natural selection across millions of years has converged on similar solutions to the challenges of resource distribution, disease control, and cooperative labor. The ants are not imitating human practices. Humans echo principles long mastered by insects. The ecological role of leafcutter ants extends beyond their nests. Their cutting of foliage removes a significant portion of leaf biomass in tropical forests each year. This activity may appear destructive, but it recycles nutrients, stimulates plant growth, and influences forest dynamics. Trails carved through undergrowth alter soil structure and drainage. Abandoned chambers enrich the earth with organic matter. In effect, the ants act as ecosystem engineers, shaping the forest not through intention, but through the scale of their collective behavior. The sensory world that guides this supply chain is almost invisible to humans. Pheromones provide instructions for foraging, alarm, recruitment, and even waste disposal. Each signal is a chemical code, received by antennae tuned to subtle differences in concentration. When a forager discovers a rich source of leaves, it deposits a trail of scent that others amplify, creating a feedback loop of reinforcement until a bustling highway emerges. Should the resource dwindle or danger arise, the pheromone fades, and the trail dissolves as if it never existed. This dynamic communication ensures flexibility in an environment where conditions change daily. The scale of these colonies is staggering. Some nests can house millions of individuals, their tunnels spanning tens of meters underground. The air within is regulated through a complex system of vents that control temperature and humidity, ensuring ideal conditions for fungal growth. The architecture itself becomes a living organism, a structure maintained not by architects, but by instinctive behaviors multiplied across countless individuals. Each grain of soil carried, each tunnel reinforced, contributes to a fortress that can persist for decades. For all their power, leafcutter ants are not invulnerable. Specialized predators from anteaters to parasitic wasps exploit their abundance. Disease outbreaks can devastate colonies if pathogens breach defenses, yet resilience lies in numbers and adaptability. A fallen worker is inconsequential when millions more continue the task. A failed garden chamber is a setback, not a collapse, as others remain healthy. This redundancy mirrors principles of resilience in networks and systems far beyond the insect world. The closing image returns to the forest floor, where the trail continues in an endless procession. The green fragments rise and fall like banners, disappearing into the darkness of nest entrances. Each triangle of leaf represents not just food, but the maintenance of a civilization hidden below, one built on cooperation, agriculture, and a living partnership with microbes. To watch them march is to witness a supply chain alive, an organism composed not of individuals, but of tasks, instincts, and relationships interwoven with the fabric of the forest. The leafcutter ant is not merely an insect. It is a farmer, a builder, a defender, and a partner in an ancient alliance. Its highways and gardens remind us that intelligence does not belong solely to large brains. It can emerge from simple rules repeated across many, from the invisible chemistry of pheromones, from the quiet pruning of fungus by jaws no larger than grains of sand. The living supply chain carries on beneath our feet, unseen but vital, a testament to the power of cooperation written at the smallest of scales. In the still heat of midday, when most moths are hidden in shaded cracks and crevices, a sudden blur appears in the open air. It hovers at a patch of flowers, wings whirring so fast they dissolve into a haze. The creature darts forward, backward, and sideways, holding itself in suspension with the precision of a miniature drone. At its front, a long, slender tube unfurls and probes into the nectar chamber of a bloom. It is not a bird, though its hovering flight suggests one. This is the hummingbird hawk-moth, a day-flying lepidopteran whose mastery of aerial control makes it one of the most remarkable flyers in the insect world. Freeze the wings for an instant, and the complexity of the movement becomes clear. Each stroke traces a figure-8 pattern, the path used by true hoverers to generate lift in both forward and backward sweeps. Unlike the simple up and down flapping of many insects, this figure-8 keeps the moth airborne without forward momentum, allowing it to hold position at a single blossom. To maintain this hovering, the wings beat as many as 80 times per second, powered by robust thoracic flight muscles that occupy much of the insect's body volume. The sound produced is a low, thrumming hum, eerily similar to the wing beats of the bird from which it takes its name. The resemblance to hummingbirds is more than coincidence. Evolution, confronted with the same aerodynamic challenge, has converged on similar solutions. Both the bird and the moth require precise control of lift, stability during stationary feeding, and energy-dense fuels to power their flight. Both have elongated feeding structures, the bird's beak and tongue, the moth's extensible proboscis, designed to reach into narrow floral tubes. And both demonstrate a high metabolic rate that demands constant refueling. The parallel is an example of convergent evolution, unrelated lineages sculpted by natural selection into analogous forms. The proboscis of the hummingbird hawk-moth is a marvel in its own right. Coiled beneath the head when not in use, it can extend to a length greater than the moth's own body. At a flower, the moth unrolls this flexible siphon, guiding it with remarkable precision into the corolla. Muscles pump nectar upward through capillary action, fueling the relentless energy expenditure of hovering. This feeding behavior makes the moth a pollinator of many wild plants, transferring grains of pollen dusted onto its face and proboscis from one bloom to the next. Without such visitors, many tubular flowers would go unvisited during daylight, for bees, with their shorter tongues, cannot reach the nectar hidden within. But feeding is not random. The hummingbird hawk-moth exhibits a behavior known as flower constancy, choosing to visit the same species of flower repeatedly during a foraging bout. By doing so, it maximizes efficiency, reducing the time needed to learn handling techniques for different floral structures. More strikingly, research has shown that these moths are capable of color learning. They can associate specific flower colors with nectar rewards, remembering which patches are profitable and which are not. Over successive days, individuals establish routes between favored feeding sites, a behavior known as trap lining. This foraging strategy mirrors that of hummingbirds and even some primates that follow habitual routes between fruiting trees. In the moth, it speaks to a cognitive capacity unexpected in a creature with such a small nervous system. The act of hovering in open daylight carries risk. Predators patrol the same blossoms, seeking to ambush the steady hum of wings. Wasps in particular pose a danger, darting in with rapid strikes to dislodge the moth or claim nectar for themselves. One scene captures this tension vividly. As the hawk moth hovers, a wasp rushes toward it in a burst of aggression. The moth reacts instantly, pivoting on its wing beats with a 90-degree sidestep, dodging the assault with barely a pause. It hovers a body length away, proboscis still extended, and with a subtle throttle adjustment, drifts back to the blossom to continue feeding. The maneuver is seamless, a display of control that rivals the most advanced aerial machines humans have designed. The moth's control of speed and direction relies on finely tuned sensory systems. Large compound eyes allow it to see in bright daylight, an unusual trait among moths. These eyes are capable of rapid flicker fusion, perceiving fast changes in light intensity that would blur to slower eyes. This visual acuity is crucial for stabilizing position during hovering and for tracking moving flowers that sway in the wind. Complementing this is the moth's proboscis itself, which doubles as a tactile probe, feeling its way into nectar tubes even when visual guidance is insufficient. The ecological role of the hummingbird hawk-moth extends beyond its dramatic flight. By transferring pollen between widely spaced flowers, it maintains genetic diversity in plant populations. Its long tongue enables pollination of flowers that exclude other insects, making it a keystone pollinator in many ecosystems. In some regions, entire plant species rely heavily on this moth for reproductive success, highlighting the intricate dependencies woven into ecological webs. At night, close relatives of the hummingbird hawk-moth carry on similar duties under starlight, but this species alone takes to the day. Diurnality offers both opportunities and hazards. Competing less with nocturnal moths, the day flyer gains access to nectar that blooms under the sun. Yet it must navigate a landscape crowded with visually acute predators, birds, lizards, and wasps. Survival hinges on speed, agility, and constant vigilance. That it thrives in such conditions is testament to the effectiveness of its flight adaptations. The energetic demands of hovering are extreme. Muscle fibers consume oxygen at high rates, fueled by a diet almost exclusively of simple sugars. To support this metabolism, the moth's circulatory and respiratory systems operate near maximum capacity during flight. Like hummingbirds, it must feed frequently, sometimes every few minutes, to sustain its activity. This constant need ties the insect tightly to floral abundance. In years of drought or poor blooming, populations can plummet, reflecting the delicate balance between pollinator and plant. The life of the hummingbird hawk-moth also illustrates the power of migration in small insects. Across parts of Europe and Asia, populations undertake seasonal journeys, expanding northward in summer and retreating southward in winter. Unlike butterflies that often depend on multiple generations to complete migrations, individual hawk moths may travel hundreds of kilometers, guided by environmental cues and aided by their strong, sustained flight. These movements link distant plant communities, spreading pollen across vast landscapes and reminding us that even small bodies can bridge great distances. The closing image lingers on the moth suspended in air, its wings a blur, its proboscis deep within the heart of a flower. Around it, petals tremble under the hum of its flight. To the casual eye, it is only another insect sipping nectar. But to linger on the details, the figure-8 wings, the convergence with birds, the color learning and trap lining, the split-second evasions, is to glimpse the intricacy of evolution's engineering. The hummingbird hawk moth is not simply a mimic of birds, nor merely a pollinator. It is a hovering needle stitching together the threads of ecosystems, carrying genetic material from flower to flower with every sip, every hover, every darting maneuver. In its tiny body lies a story of convergence, cognition, and aerial mastery that few would expect from a moth. The stream at dawn is glass smooth, a polished mirror reflecting the canopy above. Not a ripple mars its surface, save for a faint disturbance that begins to spread outward in concentric rings. The source is small, almost insignificant at first glance, a water strider poised effortlessly on the skin of the water. Its body rests high and dry, legs splayed in a cruciform posture. It appears to stand on nothing at all, a miracle of balance and lightness. Yet beneath this apparent simplicity lies one of nature's most elegant intersections of physics and biology, a creature whose survival depends on mastering the equations of surface tension. Viewed under magnification, the legs reveal a forest of microscopic hairs, each tipped with waxy hydrophobic coatings. These hairs do not merely resist wetting, they trap air, forming cushions that prevent water from clinging. When the insect presses its legs against the surface, the trapped air and the geometry of the hairs spread its weight across a broad area. The result is an upward force sufficient to counteract gravity, a biological design that turns liquid into solid ground. To the naked eye, the only clue is the dimpled meniscus beneath each foot, a subtle bowl where water curves downward under the applied pressure. This indentation is not failure but support, a trampoline of liquid tension holding the insect aloft. Physics dictates that water molecules at the surface cohere more strongly than those within the bulk liquid, creating a film-like resistance. Most animals are too heavy to exploit this property. For the water strider, evolution has fine-tuned proportions. Long legs, lightweight body, specialized hairs, so that every step is an equation solved in real time. Its stride is not a simple push, but a complex interaction with fluid dynamics. By pressing down and backward, the insect generates vortices beneath its legs, tiny swirling currents that translate into forward thrust. To the camera, the strider seems to skate, its movement smooth and gliding, as though propelled by invisible oars. Yet locomotion is only part of the story. The surface of the water doubles as a communication network. When a strider taps or flicks its legs, it sends ripples outward in concentric pulses. These vibrations carry information about identity, intent, and territory. A potential mate detects specific patterns, short bursts, long pulses, rhythmic sequences that signal courtship. Rivals may interpret a different rhythm as aggression, Prey animals caught in the surface film, such as struggling mosquitoes or midges, betray themselves with chaotic ripple signatures. To the water strider, the entire surface becomes a living drum, broadcasting messages through tension and vibration. Predation unfolds in silence and suddenness. A mosquito, newly emerged from its aquatic larval stage, miscalculates and becomes trapped. Its legs fuse to the meniscus like insects pinned under glass. The strider detects the frantic disturbances, pivots and accelerates. Its forelegs, shorter and more robust than the rest, lash out to seize the struggling victim. Specialized claws grip the prey without piercing the water's surface. The insect is lifted, immobilized and fed upon, its soft tissues drained with clinical efficiency. The entire event, from detection to capture, lasts seconds, yet it illustrates the delicate balance between buoyancy and predation that defines this niche. The environment of the water strider is not static. Streams fluctuate with rain, wind stirs ripples, and predators lurk beneath. Fish are the most formidable threat, watching for shadows or disturbances on the surface. To counter this, striders are remarkably quick to launch into escape maneuvers, their long legs allowing sudden leaps across the surface. They cannot break the tension to dive, but they can vanish laterally in bursts of acceleration that leave predators snapping at empty water. Birds, too, occasionally strike, but the strider's cryptic coloration, dark above, light below, renders them inconspicuous against the reflective sheen of water. Among their most fascinating feats is the meniscus climb, a behavior observed when striders approach shorelines or vegetation. To leave the water, they cannot simply step onto land as terrestrial insects do. For the edge of the surface, film forms a barrier where liquid curves upward against the bank. To scale this incline, the strider adjusts its body angle and redistributes leg placement. By pressing legs strategically, it exploits the slope of the meniscus, converting surface tension into upward thrust. In essence, it climbs the very curvature of water without ever breaking through. This feat demonstrates an advanced exploitation of fluid mechanics, achieved not by conscious calculation, but by evolved design refined through countless generations. The life cycle of water striders reflects their dependence on surface habitats. Eggs are laid on submerged vegetation, secured with a glue-like secretion. Nymphs hatch and resemble miniature adults, already capable of skating across the surface. As they molt through successive stages, they grow larger, their legs elongating and their hydrophobic hairs multiplying. By adulthood, they are masters of their medium, occupying ponds, streams and lakes across much of the world. Their distribution is so widespread that nearly every continent hosts some member of the Gerridae family. Striders are not uniform. Species vary in size from a few millimeters to over 2 centimeters, and some specialize in unique habitats. A few colonize ocean coastlines, braving brackish waters and tides. Others dominate slow-flowing rivers, where currents threaten to sweep them away. Their ability to adapt stems from the same principle: surface tension as a reliable platform, a physical constant available wherever water meets air. This universality explains their success, making them one of the most widely distributed insect groups on aquatic surfaces. From an ecological perspective, water striders occupy a middle tier in the food web. They regulate populations of emerging aquatic insects, preventing swarms from overwhelming habitats. In turn, they provide food for fish, amphibians and birds. Their presence indicates the health of freshwater systems. Polluted or disturbed waters often see their numbers decline. Thus, to watch a strider skate across a clear stream is to witness not just an individual's life, but a signal of ecosystem balance. The precision of their locomotion has attracted the attention of scientists and engineers. Roboticists study striders to design machines that can walk on water, mimicking the distribution of forces and the generation of vortices. The combination of lightweight structure, hydrophobic surfaces, and dynamic gait offers insights into both biology and technology. Once again, what evolution has perfected over millions of years becomes a template for human invention. As the morning brightens, the strider continues its patrol, legs dimpling the surface in rhythmic strokes. Each step is supported by invisible mathematics, surface tension equations expressed in biological form. Ripples radiate outward, vanishing as quickly as they appear, leaving the water's mirror intact. To the casual eye, it is a simple insect skimming across a pond. To the informed observer, it is a creature writing physics into life, walking not on faith or magic, but on equations embedded in every molecule of water beneath its feet. Beneath the rotting log, darkness hangs heavy, interrupted only by the faint glint of damp wood fibers. The air is still until, without warning, it ruptures in a startling sound, a sharp hiss, more reptilian than insect. To the unprepared ear, it resembles steam venting from a pipe or the exhale of some hidden beast. Yet the source is neither snake nor lizard. It is one of the largest cockroaches on Earth, a species native to the forests of Madagascar. Here, in a world of decaying vegetation and tangled roots, the Madagascar hissing cockroach announces itself not with mandibles or wings, but with breath. The hiss is no trick of the mouth. Unlike most insects, these cockroaches produce sound not by rubbing body parts together, but by forcing air through spiracles, the small breathing holes arranged along the sides of their abdomen. Each spiracle can open and close with muscular precision. When expelled with force, the air resonates as an audible hiss, one of the few examples in the insect world where respiration doubles as communication. In this sense, the cockroach wields its breath as both signal and weapon, an acoustic tool shaped by evolutionary necessity. Not all hisses are the same. Researchers distinguish several distinct types, each carrying its own context and message. The disturbance hiss erupts when the insect is touched or threatened, a sudden blast meant to startle potential predators. Male cockroaches employ dominance hisses in ritual combat, explosive bursts punctuating their grappling bouts. Courtship hisses, softer but rhythmic, accompany mating approaches, a soundscape of persuasion rather than intimidation. These acoustic signals, layered atop the insect's otherwise silent life, transform the log hollow into a chamber of resonance where breath becomes language. On the forest floor, two males meet at a patch of exposed leaf litter. Both are large, their pronotums, broad shield-like plates just behind the head, raised like armor. They circle, antennae sweeping the air, each waiting for the other to falter. Then, with sudden force, they collide, pushing head-to-head, pronotum against pronotum. The fight resembles a sumo match in miniature, each combatant leveraging its mass and strength to shove the rival backward. Between shoves, hisses erupt like steam valves, each exhalation a declaration of determination. The winner of such contests secures access to territory and, by extension, to females. These encounters rarely end in injury, for the ritualized push fight, reinforced by acoustic bravado, is usually enough to establish hierarchy. Courtship unfolds differently. When a male encounters a receptive female, he emits a patterned series of hisses, not sharp and explosive, but pulsed and deliberate. The female assesses the display, guided by chemical cues as much as by sound. If she accepts, mating proceeds. If not, the courtship ceases abruptly. The hiss, in this context, is more than noise. It is an integral part of reproductive success, a sound encoded with evolutionary consequences. To humans, the cockroach often carries an image of filth and contamination. The Madagascar hissing cockroach defies this stereotype. Far from dirty, it is a meticulous groomer. Using its legs and mouthparts, it constantly cleans its antennae and body surfaces, ensuring that sensory organs remain functional and cuticle-free of debris. In captivity, these insects spend significant portions of their time engaged in grooming, a behavior that underscores their investment in hygiene. In their natural forest habitats, they play the role of recyclers, breaking down leaf litter and decaying plant matter into soil-enriching fragments. In doing so, they accelerate decomposition, returning nutrients to the ecosystem and maintaining the health of the forest floor. They are, in essence, custodians of the detritus, turning waste into fertility. Their life cycle reflects this role. Eggs are carried within the female's body inside a protective case called an ootheca, which she eventually reabsorbs, allowing the young to hatch internally. Live nymphs emerge, resembling miniature versions of the adults. Over successive molts they grow, shedding their exoskeletons as they expand. Each stage contributes to the recycling of organic matter, for nymphs like adults feed on decomposing vegetation. By adulthood, they may reach lengths of 7 centimeters, their bodies broad and armored, yet flexible enough to navigate crevices in the forest litter. The cuticle itself reveals adaptations for the subterranean lifestyle. Smooth and slightly velvety, it reduces drag as the cockroach pushes through tight spaces. The coloration, dark brown to black with subtle reddish hues, camouflages them against the soil and rotting wood. Lacking wings, they rely entirely on legs for locomotion, but their movements are efficient and purposeful. They are capable climbers, using hooked claws to scale bark and debris, though they prefer the cover of ground-level habitats where humidity remains high. From an ecological perspective, the hissing cockroach serves as prey as well as recycler. Birds, reptiles, and small mammals hunt them, particularly juveniles whose smaller size makes them vulnerable. Their hissing defense, startling though it may be, is not always deterrent enough. Yet by producing large numbers of offspring and living in colonies, populations persist despite predation. This balance ensures that their role in decomposition continues, sustaining the nutrient cycles that support the broader forest community. The physiological mechanism of hissing warrants closer attention. In most insects, spiracles regulate gas exchange, opening briefly to admit oxygen and release carbon dioxide. In the Madagascar hissing cockroach, certain spiracles have been enlarged and adapted for acoustic use. Muscular contractions force air out rapidly, creating turbulence that vibrates surrounding tissues. The sound's pitch and duration vary with the force of expulsion and the spiracles engaged. Unlike stridulation, which produces sound through friction, this spiracular system is more analogous to vertebrate vocalization, though achieved without vocal cords. It represents a rare evolutionary innovation, turning breath into voice. Behavioral studies have shown that individuals can recognize each other by hiss characteristics, suggesting that these sounds carry individual signatures. This acoustic identity may play roles in both dominance hierarchies and mate selection, reinforcing the idea that communication in these insects is richer than previously assumed. Such findings challenge simplistic views of cockroaches as mindless scavengers, revealing layers of social interaction mediated through sound. In the quiet of the log hollow, another hiss echoes, this time softer, fading quickly into the damp air. The cockroach that produced it retreats into darkness, its body merging with shadows. For all their size and acoustic power, these insects remain largely hidden from casual view, active mostly at night, venturing out when humidity is high and temperature steady. Their secretive habits, combined with their peculiar mode of communication, have given them an aura of mystery. The final scene lingers on two males locked in a push fight, pronotal armor pressed together, legs straining for purchase. With each shove, bursts of hiss punctuate the struggle, venting into the night like the breath of some subterranean machine. One male falters, his body sliding backward across the bark, conceding territory. The victor stills, antennae sweeping slowly, his dominance affirmed not only through force, but through sound amplified by lungs that are not lungs at all. To watch the Madagascar hissing cockroach is to encounter an insect that rewrites expectations. It is not dirty, not mindless, not silent. It is a careful groomer, a recycler of the forest, a singer through spiracles, and a warrior with armor built into its frame. Its hiss, startling and resonant, is both defense and language, a breath of the beast that speaks volumes about the ingenuity of evolution. At first, there is only a branch, dry, angular and still. But as the breeze stirs the undergrowth, the branch sways with a rhythm too deliberate, a motion that belongs not to wood but to muscle. The stick insect is revealed only when attention lingers, its outline dissolving into the tangle of stems and twigs. Few creatures have perfected the art of invisibility as thoroughly as this one. It does not vanish through speed or burrow into cover. Instead, it survives by becoming the landscape itself, a living splinter of forest that blurs the boundary between organism and environment. The masquerade is not passive. The insect commits to the role with a choreography dictated by wind and light. When a gust ripples through the canopy, it sways gently, matching frequency and amplitude so closely that the eye registers nothing unusual. When a shadow passes overhead, perhaps a bird scanning for prey, the stick insect freezes, locking joints in absolute stillness. If a predator draws too close, it may drop suddenly, legs folded tight against its body, landing on the leaf litter below with the perfect randomness of a fallen twig. Each gesture is not improvisation, but instinct, sculpted by generations of natural selection, a performance of survival rehearsed countless times. Camouflage, in this insect, is more than coloration. While its mottled browns and greens mimic bark and foliage, the true deception lies in timing and behavior. Movement is carefully rationed, performed in increments so small they blur into the background sway of vegetation. Even feeding is done cautiously. The insect raises its head slowly, nibbling at leaves without betraying itself through sudden gestures. It lives in a theater where every performance is scrutinized by predators with sharp eyes and quicker reflexes. Survival depends not only on how it looks, but on how it moves, or more often, how it does not move. This life of restraint conceals extraordinary adaptations. Among them is the ability to regenerate lost limbs. Should a predator seize an antenna or sever a leg, the stick insect does not carry the injury forever. With each successive molt, as it sheds its exoskeleton to grow, the missing appendage re-emerges, gradually lengthening until full function returns. This regenerative ability ensures that encounters with predators are not always fatal setbacks, but survivable trials. Few insects offer such resilience, and in the stick insect it is a safeguard for a creature that cannot flee with speed or defend with venom. Another secret lies in reproduction. In many species, females can reproduce without males through a process known as parthenogenesis. Eggs laid unfertilized develop into viable offspring, clones of the mother, capable of founding entire populations alone. This ability grants stick insects remarkable colonizing power. A single female carried by wind, bird, or storm to a new island may, without ever meeting a mate, establish a thriving lineage. In ecosystems fragmented by rivers or mountains, this reproductive autonomy ensures persistence, weaving new populations into landscapes where males may be absent for years. Their eggs themselves are curiosities. Often they resemble seeds, complete with tough casings and small caps that mimic plant structures. Ants, deceived by this resemblance, carry them into their nests as if they were food. Protected underground, the eggs escape predators and desiccation until nymphs hatch months later. When they emerge, they resemble miniature versions of the adults, already equipped with twig-like disguises. Growth is slow, punctuated by molts, each one shedding old skin to reveal a slightly larger phantom, ready to resume the endless performance of stillness. The stick insect's predators are many: birds, lizards, frogs, and spiders. Each tests the camouflage in its own way, probing the illusion for weakness. One of the most dramatic encounters occurs with the wasp spider. Its orb web, strung between grasses, glitters with dew like strands of glass. To most insects, the web is a fatal trap, vibrating with every struggle. Yet the stick insect, moving with exquisite control, inches across a safe route. Each step is so slow that no tremor betrays its weight, avoiding the vibration sensors of the spider at the web's hub. It does not rush, for rushing would mean death. Instead, it threads itself through openings, as if choreographing a passage across a minefield. The scene underscores the essence of its camouflage, deception not only of sight, but of perception itself. Some stick insects add further layers to their masquerade. Wings, when present, often resemble leaves complete with veins, blemishes, and even simulated bite marks. Certain species will flash bright colors hidden beneath these wings if disturbed, startling predators with sudden contrast before vanishing again into stillness. Others secrete defensive chemicals with odors sharp enough to repel attackers. Yet despite these embellishments, the core survival strategy remains the same: invisibility through commitment, patience, and choreography. Their ecological role, though subtle, is profound. By feeding on leaves, stick insects influence plant growth and community structure. Their eggs, dispersed by ants, integrate into soil systems. Their bodies, when preyed upon, fuel higher trophic levels. In this way, they serve as both sculptors of vegetation and currency of energy transfer, woven into the fabric of ecosystems despite their ghostly presence. To overlook them is easy, yet their absence would ripple through the community of plants, predators, and decomposers that share the same space. The sensory adaptations that support their life of stillness are equally refined. Antennae, long and slender, sweep the air with constant micro-movements, gathering chemical and tactile cues invisible to human senses. Vision, while not acute compared to predators, suffices for detecting changes in light and motion, enough to prompt freezing when danger looms. Their nervous systems are tuned less for speed than for persistence, sustaining immobility as a default rather than an exertion. In the language of physiology, they are optimized for patience. Human fascination with stick insects often arises from their uncanny resemblance to plants. Captive individuals kept in terrariums are easily mistaken for twigs until they move, startling observers with the sudden animation of what seemed inert. In cultures worldwide, they have been symbols of invisibility and trickery, though in reality they embody not deceit but adaptation, the triumph of survival by blending rather than by confrontation. The closing image returns to the forest understory. A shaft of sunlight filters through, illuminating a branch that at first seems unremarkable. But as the breeze shifts, the branch sways, and within that sway lies the insect, perfectly synchronized with the ghostly choreography of the wind. It is more than camouflage. It is theater as survival, regeneration as resilience, and reproduction as independence. The stick insect is the ghost of the wind, an organism whose greatest achievement is to be mistaken for nothing at all. The midday sun burns against the still surface of a pond, the air shimmering with heat that rises like invisible curtains. From the reeds at the margin, a flash of crimson ignites against the blue sky. A scarlet dragonfly takes position, hovering effortlessly above the water. Its body gleams like molten metal, its wings a blur of transparent motion. Suspended in the furnace of summer, it appears to hang in defiance of gravity, a sentinel scanning the liquid mirror below. Then, without warning, it launches. The insect vanishes in a streak of red, curving across the air with surgical precision. A gnat never sees its end. The dragonfly's hunting method is not blind pursuit, but interception, a tactic that elevates it among the most effective aerial predators in the animal kingdom. Rather than trailing its prey, the dragonfly calculates where the moving insect will be, adjusting its flight path to intersect at that future point. This requires astonishing speed of computation, angles, velocities, and distances processed in fractions of a second. Studies reveal that dragonflies achieve capture success rates exceeding 90%, figures unmatched by most vertebrate hunters. Their nervous systems, though compact, are wired with specialized neurons dedicated to motion prediction, making every attack less a chase and more an inevitability. Supporting this strategy is an aerial hardware unrivaled among insects. The scarlet dragonfly, like its relatives, possesses two pairs of wings that can beat independently. Unlike butterflies or flies, which synchronize their wings, dragonflies can operate each wing in different phases. This grants them the ability to roll, yaw, and pitch with extreme precision, even to hover in place or fly backward. Each wing stroke is a lever of control, enabling rapid shifts in orientation that allow pursuit from any angle. Where prey attempts to dodge, the dragonfly rotates mid-air, aligning itself in a heartbeat. The flight mechanics resemble those of a helicopter, combined with the agility of a fighter jet. The eyes complete the arsenal. Covering most of the head, the compound eyes of a dragonfly contain tens of thousands of facets, each a tiny lens. Together, they create a panoramic field of view approaching 360 degrees. For the scarlet dragonfly, little escapes notice. Tiny flickers across the pond's surface, a shimmer at the edge of the reed bed, or the delicate arc of a moth, all fall within its perceptual grasp. The insect's world is a mosaic of motion, and its brain is tuned to extract trajectories from that mosaic. What appears chaotic to humans is ordered data to the dragonfly, coordinates to feed its interception algorithm. Beneath the brilliance of its aerial prowess lies the necessity of fuel. Dragonflies are ectotherms, their activity governed by the temperature of their environment. On cool mornings, they perch with wings spread flat, absorbing sunlight like solar panels. The scarlet species, in particular, often orient themselves directly toward the sun, raising the abdomen vertically in a posture known as obelisking. This reduces overheating by minimizing surface area exposed to direct rays, a form of thermoregulation through geometry. In the heat of midday, they take advantage of shimmering updrafts over water, using them as invisible runways to launch sprints without wasting energy. Each flight, each ambush, is powered by a delicate balance between heat intake and heat avoidance. The pond itself is not merely a hunting ground, but a nursery. Dragonfly larvae, known as nymphs, live underwater for months or even years before emerging as adults. Armed with extendable jaws that shoot forward like harpoons, they prey on mosquito larvae, tadpoles, and even small fish fry. When metamorphosis nears, the nymph climbs a reed, its exoskeleton splitting as the adult pulls free. Wings expand and harden in the sunlight, and the scarlet sheen develops over days as pigments mature. Thus, every crimson adult circling above began life as a hidden predator below, tying pond and sky into a single continuum of predation. Predators, of course, are not without their own enemies. Birds, frogs, and even other dragonflies target scarlet adults. Territorial battles between males often erupt above ponds, spiraling chases and violent grapples that determine who controls the prime hunting and mating sites. The flash of red against green reed signals both opportunity and danger, a warning to rivals that the airspace is claimed. These duels, though fierce, rarely end in death. More often a loser peels away, conserving energy for another day's contests. The scarlet dragonfly's success as an interceptor has drawn attention from scientists and engineers alike. Its neural strategies for prediction resemble algorithms used in missile guidance systems, where pursuit is inefficient, but interception guarantees efficiency. Its independent wing operation offers inspiration for micro-drones that require stability and agility in turbulent air. Once again, what evolution has honed for survival becomes a blueprint for human technology. As the sun lowers, activity peaks. Swarms of small insects rise from the pond's surface, each a potential meal. The scarlet dragonfly patrols with tireless focus, executing strike after strike. One maneuver is particularly telling. Instead of accelerating after a moth, it arcs across the air, cutting the corner and meeting the prey mid-flight. The capture is precise, wings adjusting milliseconds before impact, jaws closing with inevitability. Such mastery of time and trajectory explains why dragonflies are among the few predators capable of feeding entirely on fast, evasive insects. In one dramatic sequence, a scarlet dragonfly intercepts a hummingbird hawk-moth at the pond's edge. The moth, itself a marvel of hovering flight, darts between blossoms with rapid wing beats. The dragonfly locks on, calculating an intercept vector. It launches, closing distance with blinding speed. For a split second, the two aerial masters share the same airspace, red predator and brown gold pollinator spiraling together. But at the last moment, the moth pivots sharply, dodging the strike. The dragonfly corrects instantly, yet chooses not to pursue. Both insects peel off unharmed, their encounter a fleeting duel of aerial perfection. The pond falls silent again, save for the hum of wings and the shimmer of heat. The closing image lingers on the scarlet form hovering above the water, wings catching the last rays of sun. Each movement, each strike, embodies not only the beauty of color and motion, but the deeper mathematics of survival. To the casual eye, it is an insect flashing crimson over a pond. To the informed, it is an interception pilot, solving equations of trajectory, thermoregulation, and energy with every beat of its wings. The scarlet dragonfly is both predator and pilot, an aerial strategist in miniature whose presence transforms summer ponds into arenas of physics and life.